Thank you all for joining us on a Sunday morning. It is our intent, it is our goal, it's our privilege to bring you, in essence, the essence of what I've spent the last 40-odd years in medicine and science distilling, learning, putting together. We hear today a lot about personalized medicine. We hear today a lot about translational medicine. We hear today a lot about the medicine of tomorrow being available to the individual practitioner through something. Through genomics. I will suggest to you that A, very few genomic tests are worth doing today. B, when you get information back and you see a variant, that doesn't mean a problem. But in a mechanistic, reductionistic world, anything different must be suspect. In a biological world, we know that each of us is as unique as our face and fingerprint. And oh, by the way, genes jump around. So is everybody aware that genes rearrange, that genes are largely influenced, greatly influenced, by the habits of daily living? Do we get restorative sleep or not? Do we eat those things we can digest, assimilate, and eliminate without immune burden or not? And how much of each of our lifetime health is genetic? Anybody know? How much is genetic? 8%. 8%. And this was established in 1972 by the National Cancer Institute. It's been reconfirmed many times since. 8% of lifetime health is based on your genetics. 92% is epigenetic. 92% is habits, choices, what we eat and drink, think and do. We will come back many times to the phenomenology of what happens when you eat a diet that you can digest, assimilate, and eliminate without immune burden. How do you restore neurohormonal balance in a world so intoxicated that if you haven't seen John Oliver's take on getting the lead out of America, I urge you to go online and look up John Oliver, get the lead out. It's a 20-minute piece, so I'm not going to play it for you today, but he puts it brilliantly in perspective. And by the way, as bad a problem as Flint is, guess how many communities in America have been recently reconfirmed to have excessive lead levels in the water supply? How many towns and communities? Anybody know? 2,000. Today, part of life is to assume that the oxidative burden is anywhere from 100 to 100,000 times more than it was. And what would you do if you were a sane person and you acknowledge that? Now, does anybody disagree with that? Can we all agree that the toxic burden overall is 100 to 100,000 times what it was, say, 100 or 200 years ago? What would you do if you were sane and you wanted to survive the 21st century? Well, one of the first things you have to do is rethink everything. How much antioxidant protection do we need today? A lot more. And how do we know how much we need? Stay tuned. Because I'll be presenting here about biomarkers that are so predictive that if you use them properly, based on what we will share today, you can transform your practice into an evidence-based and high-value practice. However, the critical piece, the most important piece, according to the 2,000-year-old man, the most important part is getting them to do something. So information and inspiration is fine, but we have to walk our talk in such a way that people are so inspired and engaged that they will put the effort in. And here's the secret. This is what I'm going to tell you all day, which is keep it simple and one step at a time. Very often I find people who want to be take care of 20, 30, 40 years of issues in once and done. They want to go to a spa for a weekend, or they want to go to a retreat for a month. Okay. I'm not going to stop people from doing that, but I don't recommend that. But what I do recommend is picking a high potential gain, simple step like hydration, or getting enough vitamin C ascorbate and understanding that it's ascorbate and not a vitamin. But finding out how much you need based on how much oxidative stress you have today. And next week, you check next week. Because guess what? Life changes. Different seasons of the life would require different approaches to a sustainably healthy lifestyle. Now, my background, clinical pathology. I'm a fellow of the American College of Clinical Nutrition. I'm a scientific fellow of the American College of Allergy, Asthma, and Immunology, Federation of Clinical Immunology Societies, the Medical Laboratory Immunologist, and I'm an overseas fellow of the Royal Society of Medicine. One of the things that brought me out here in the last few weeks is that we presented at Experimental Biology. This is like the high priest meeting of basic and molecular biology on the precision of our lymphocyte response assays, of our cell culture assays. And the fact that over 4 years and over 4,000 specimens, which represents hundreds of thousands of assays, we had less than 3% variance on blind split samples. So one of the things you'll hear about the field of functional medicine is, oh, it's hard to get reproducibility. Well, there are a lot of bad tests or bad labs out there, and their split samples don't reproduce, but a good lab will get good split sample precision. And to do a cell culture with better precision than most labs do a blood sugar or a blood cholesterol, that was very well received. It's a new generation where we can take advantage of truly functional approaches to understanding immune system, neurohormonal systems, the microbiome, the metabolome. And that's where the epigenetics plays such a strong role. Now, we used to say digestion and metabolism, but I think you get paid more for saying microbiome and metabolome. They're the words that are in vogue. Now, I started out in medicine and science with the goal of getting to the National Institutes of Health. I was on the permanent senior staff there and expected to stay and maybe at this point be very involved with the National Heart, Lung, and Blood Institute at some level. So I realized at a certain point that if I wanted to be independent of mind and independent of voice, that I needed to go into business and sign my own check. So I'm kind of like Tina Fey. I like to sign my own check. So we started Lysac Biotechnologies in 1984 to provide ex vivo lymphocyte response assays. We realized by 1987 that there was a need for a new generation of high precision supplements where everything was disclosed and we only used really active ingredients shown beneficial in clinical studies. And so we have a whole family now of functional and more effective, safer nutrients premised on people being able to feel the difference that these kinds of high uptake, high bioavailability supplements can provide. And just one little anecdote there, we actually did a double-blind placebo-controlled trial of our super multivitamin showing 100% bioavailability and published in the American College of Nutrition Journal back in 1992. And the most interesting part of that little study was first, that we showed 100% bioavailability. That was really thrilling, because 20% is industry standard, even in professional products. But the most interesting part was that medical students were the subjects for the study. It was done out at USIS, the military medical school. And after the study, many of the medical students wanted to continue taking the supplement. And Professor Doister, who ran the study, said, well, I think I can get you the supplements, but you'll have to buy them. And the students wanted to. And we didn't publish that piece, but I can tell you that that to me was the most impressive anecdotal information that medical students would buy with their own little, discretionary dollars. A supplement. Why? Because they got more restorative sleep. Their moods were more stable. They could document from self-assessments that they were functioning and feeling that much better. So that's my background.